Hey everyone, Carol from Segovia Quilts here. So I wanted to try a different camera angle and I thought this video would be the perfect video to try it with. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this camera angle a little bit better. I also wanted to kind of change up my recording style, I guess, if you will. I wanted to be a little bit more natural and kind of less, I don't know, I want to say put together, but I don't want it to sound like I'm just kind of throwing something together either. But I wanted to do it, you know, just kind of like y'all are here in the sewing studio with me. So yeah, hopefully this goes okay. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing two firsts for me. So I'm working with this new fabric collection from Riley Blake Designs. It's called Sunny Skies and the designer is Jill Finley. So I selected a couple of prints to do, again, two firsts for me. So my plan with this collection is to make a tote bag and a pair of shorts. So I have never made any kind of bags before, and I've never made any kind of clothing before. So this is going to be like a learning experience entirely. But I thought this collection would be perfect because, again, I'm in Florida and we pretty much have a great sunny season for like 11 months of the year. So I thought the shorts would be good. And then for the bag, I tend to, like, when I buy a purse, I'll hang on to it and I'll use it for like years, even if it starts like, if the handle starts cracking or peeling or whatever, I'll still use it. But I feel like I should maybe upgrade my bag a little bit. And so I thought this tote bag would be like a good bag for me to upgrade my current purse to. So yeah, so we're going to try making some clothes and a bag using this fabric. So let me start off by showing y'all the fabric that I selected for these two projects, and then I'll show you the patterns that I picked for both of them. All right, so these are the fabrics that I selected. Now, these are not all the fabrics in the collection. This is actually a really large collection, so this is just a small percentage of the fabrics available in it. But these were the ones that like really stood out to me. And my favorite color is blue, so I was immediately drawn to these four patterns here. And I really feel like this particular print here with its large sunflowers I feel like it's going to be like my focal fabric, at least for my bag. So I'll go ahead and open these up like I normally do in my videos and give you the SKU number for each of the prints. But these are the prints that we're going to be working with today. All right, so I'm going to start off with this fabric, but it is a white on white fabric. So in order for you to be able to see it, or at least the pattern in the fabric, I'm going to put this darker piece of fabric behind it so that you can see, hopefully see the design in the fabric. So let me show you the two patterns that I've selected to make our shorts and our bag from. So the first one, this is just called Basic Tote, and it's by Lisa Gay, and I'm gonna try to pronounce the name, but I believe it's Ivillo Charlotte Designs. So I did get this off of Etsy, so I will go ahead and include the link in the description of this video down below. I'm not affiliated with Lisa or her company or anything. I just saw this pattern on Etsy. I thought it was cute, so I bought it. So that's going to be our tote bag pattern. And then for our shorts, so this one is called PF Pattern Fix. This one does not have a designer name. I looked through all of the paperwork here, but it doesn't say anything. So now this pattern, it does have a rather large printout. So you have the directions that tell you how to put everything together, but then you also have the actual pattern that you'll have to lay out and cut and then tape based on whatever size of shorts you need. So it is several pages to print out, so keep that in mind. But these are the two patterns that I'm going to be using today. So I think I'm going to start with the tote bag, and there are a couple of extra things that we do need for the tote bag outside of the fabric, so let me show you that. Oh, and also for the tote bag, I'm only going to use 5 of the fabrics that I got, and then for the shorts, I have put these 2 fabrics aside for the shorts, and you really only need 1, but my thought is I might add like a little trim to the bottom of the shorts using the white fabric. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to do that, but I got it just in case I did want to go ahead and do that. So these 2 fabrics here I'm going to set aside along with our shorts pattern, and we'll just hang on to the fabric and the pattern for the tote bag for now. All right, so in addition to the fabric and then obviously all of your sewing supplies, for the tote bag, you will need, it calls for 1.5 yards of fusible fleece. So I have this package of Pellon fusible fleece. It's a low loft 100% polyester. So I have this that I will be using for that. And then it also calls for 1/3 yard lightweight fusible interfacing for each of the interior pockets. So for that, I will be using, it's Pellon as well. It's SF101 Shape Flex interfacing. So these are the 2 extra things that you'll need. And then the last thing that it calls for is 1 magnetic snap closure. I don't know that I'll be putting that in, just because I don't generally use the snap closures that are on my purses, so I don't know that I would use it on the bag either. But if you tend to use those, you'll need to have a magnetic snap closure in addition to the fabric and the interfacing and the fusible fleece. So once everything's said and done, the tote bag should measure approximately 12 inches tall by 15 inches wide by 4.5 inches deep. So I feel like that is a decent size, and that's actually going to be big enough where I could put my tablet in my tote bag, as well as like my wallet and all of my purse accessories. So this should be a decent sized bag. So now I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up all of my fabrics, hit them with an iron to get all of the creases out, and then we'll go ahead and start cutting out the parts to make our tote bag. Alright, so I've cut out all of my fabric pieces, my fusible fleece, and my stabilizer for my tote. So you'll definitely want to make sure you have a good amount of the fusible fleece. So the package that I have is 45 inches by 60 inches, and I would say I used maybe about half of that amount for this tote bag. So each of the pieces that I cut out has fusible fleece on it. So make sure you have a good enough amount, this way you don't have to stop in the middle and run out to go get some more. Alright, so once you have everything cut out, the directions do tell you to go ahead and fuse the fleece to the respective parts, as well as the interfacing to the respective parts. So I have done that already. So the outside pieces of the bag have the fusible fleece ironed on, and then I have the inside pieces of the bag that have the stabilizer ironed on. So all of that has been done already. So then the next part is the directions tell you for the straps. So once you get your fusible fleece sewn onto these, then you need to fold in the edges, iron those down, and then fold the strap in half. So I've done that here already. And then it tells you to fold the strap in half like so. And you want to make sure you have your open edges facing out. So you fold it in half, and then you want to measure out 7 inches from the raw edge up on both sides of the strap. So from here 7 inches up, and from here 7 inches up. And then you want to put some marks. So I did that, and I only used a couple of dots of my water soluble pen, and it's blue, so it kind of blends right in with the fabric. So I did my marks on both straps, and then once you do that, then you need to sew down both edges of the straps. So the directions say to do about 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. I pretty much lined up the edge of my straps with my presser foot, and then I sewed. But what I did do, and you probably won't be able to see it in the camera, so I did increase my stitch length to 3.5. Not really for any applicable reason. It's not going to affect the strap at all, but I like the look that a longer stitch gives compared to like a shorter stitch. To me, a longer stitch just kind of gives it that more professional feel or look to it. So I did increase my stitch length, and so I've got that done there. And then the directions say, so there are pockets with this tote. There's exterior pockets and interior pockets. So it does say to get the fabric that you're going to use for your exterior pocket, you want to fold it in half. So I've done that, and I'll show you here. So this is what it was like. I folded it in half, and then you want to press it. So both of these have been pressed, and then it says to fold it in half again to find the center section up and down. So I did that. Now it doesn't say to press, but I did go ahead and press anyways. So these two are pressed and ready to go. So the next step is for the pocket, I need to sew on the folded edge. So this is going to be the top edge. So this is going to be what we're going to see on the top of our pocket. So you need to sew 3/8 of an inch across on both sides. So I need to go ahead and do that. All right, so I've sewn down the top edge of both of my pockets, the 3/8 of an inch. So now I need to get the main body of my bag, which is this beautiful sunflower print fabric here. Again, this is my focal print for the bag. So this is the print that to me is going to catch everybody's attention. So I need to get this part here, and I need to lay my exterior pocket over top of it. So now I did go ahead and fold this in half, and I just finger pressed to find the center. So now I need to put my pocket, and this is where I use that line, that seam, to line them up so that I know that they're centered. And then we just want to make sure the bottom edges here are lined up together, and then I'm going to pin them, or I'm going to use my clips to hold them in place. We need to do this for both of our pieces here. And we'll just get that lined up, and then we'll clip that and clip this. So now what we need to do is we need to sew down 1/4 of an inch on both sides of our pockets for both sides of our bag. So side 1 and side 2, we need to sew down 1/4 of an inch on both sides. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I've sewn my pocket on. I did 1/4 of an inch from the top to the bottom. I made sure the bottom edge of my pocket here stayed even with the bottom edge of my bag. All right, so we need to attach our straps to the bag. Now, these straps are actually going to cover up the raw edges of our pocket. So when you lay out your strap, you want the marks that you put on it to be facing up. So you want to be looking at them. And then the directions also say that the two edges that are sewn here need to be facing the outside edges of the bag. So I didn't mention it earlier. This bottom section here, the bottom 7 inches are not sewn closed. And the reason is when we attach our straps to the bag, if we had sewn these closed, then you would end up having double stitching on the bottom half of your straps. So we only went, well, I only went maybe 1/2 of an inch below our markings here. And then I just did a locking stitch, and that was it. So now you want to line these up. So now for my bag, I need to measure in, I believe it said 3 inches from the edge, and then I need to line this edge of my strap up with that 3-inch mark, and then we're going to pin it in place, and we're going to do that for both sides. And then once that's done, then we can move on to sew it down. So now I've already done the other side of my bag here. So I measured it out, I clipped down here on the bottom, and then I pinned my 2 edges up here. All right, so now we can go ahead and sew down our straps. So you essentially want to match the stitching that we did previously when we made our straps. So for me, I'm going to line up the edge of my strap with the edge of my presser foot and then just sew straight down. So again, because this is going to be a visible stitch, I am going to make sure that that stitch length is bumped up to 3.5. All right, so I sewed my straps onto the exterior part of my bag. So now the directions do say if you're going to be carrying like a lot of heavy stuff in your bag, to add additional back stitching at the top of your straps here. So what I did was I started at the bottom, I came up, and it says to stop at the mark that we made on our straps. So that's what I did. I stopped at that mark, and then I turned and I went in and I back stitched a couple of times, and then I came down 2 stitches. Again, my stitch length was 3.5, so I came down 2 stitches, and then I did another back stitching here, and then I continued the rest of the way down my strap. So I did that on both of my straps for both sides of my bag. So this is pretty secure. I don't anticipate this going anywhere. So now that's done. So now we can go ahead and put the next piece of our bag on. So this is going to be the bottom piece of the outside of our bag. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this pretty sides facing, and we're going to clip this in place. So once you get that, then you want to do the second part of your bag, and I have that one already clipped in place here. So again, pretty sides touching. So once you get these clipped in place, then we're going to sew this together. So now up until this point, our seams have been either 1/4 of an inch or the 3/8 of an inch when we sewed our pocket. So this bottom seam is going to be a 1/2 inch. So this is our first 1/2 inch seam for our bag. So we're going to go ahead and sew a 1/2 inch seam on this section, and then also the second section. All right, so I've sewn the bottom edges of both of the sides of my bag. So now once you do that, you want to fold this exterior piece down, and then we want to sew a stitch line right here. So the directions say to do 1/4 of an inch. Again, I just put the edge of my fabric up to the edge of my presser foot, and I stitched all the way down. I did that on both sides of my bag. And again, because this is a visible stitch, I did make sure that my stitch length was bumped up to 3.5. So now the next step is we want to take the outside sections, both sides of our bag, and we want to press them or flip them and put them pretty sides touching. All right, so now when you're lining up the 2 sides of your bag, you want to pay special attention to these sections here where the seams meet up. So you want to make sure that those line up and match perfectly. This way you can have a nice transition from one side of your bag to the other side. So once you get that lined up, then you want to go ahead and pin them in place so that they don't move on you. All right, so once you get those pinned so they don't move on you, what we're going to do is we're going to be stitching down the outside edges of our bag. So again, we're going to stitch down a 1/2 inch, starting on one side, going all the way down, going all the way across the bottom, and then all the way back up the other side. And you want to make sure that you back stitch at the start and at the end so that your stitches stay locked in place and they don't open up on you. All right, so I've sewn down the outside edges of my bag. Again, it was a 1/2 inch away from the edge, and I made sure that my 2 seams here on either side met up nicely. So that is done. So now the next thing is we need to get the pockets for the inside of the bag ready. So now if you're not going to put pockets on the inside, then you can skip these steps, but I am putting pockets. So you want to take the material that you have set aside for your pockets. This is the material that actually has the interfacing on it. It does not have the fusible fleece. So you want to get the material that you have for your pockets, and the directions say to fold the 2 long edges in a 1/2 inch. So I marked it, I folded, I pressed, and then it says that you want to fold the fabric over again on itself so that the two edges that you just folded in the 1/2 inch are meeting up at the bottom, and you want the pretty side of your fabric facing out. So I decided to put pockets on both sides of the inside of my bag, so I've got 2 of those pocket pieces here, and I did the same thing to both of them. I folded in the edges, pressed, and then I folded the fabric and pressed again. All right, so what we want to do next is, this is the fabric that will be the interior of my bag. So you want to get your pocket pieces, and with the folded and pressed edges facing the bottom of your bag, so let's say this is the top of my bag, this is the bottom, you want the pressed edges to face the bottom of your bag. So now you want to line up the 2 edges here, and for this pattern you want your pocket pieces to be 4 inches up from the bottom. So I'm just going to measure that out. So now I can go ahead and pin this in place on both sides. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew this bottom edge here. Again, this is where we pressed our fold. We're going to sew this bottom edge here 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. And then this is also where you want to decide how many pockets you want to have for your pocket fabric here. So in the directions, they did 3 pockets. So they did 1 narrow pocket here in the middle. So you did, or she did 2 seams down right here, and then that left these 2 larger pockets on the outside areas. So I might go ahead and do the same thing. I always have pens in my purse, so having a specific narrow pocket for pens would really come in handy. And then the 2 outside pockets would be perfect for my cell phone or even like a makeup case or something like that. So I might go ahead and do the same thing. And as far as the measurements go, you can make them whatever measurements you want. So we're going to do the same thing for both inside pieces of our bag. All right, so I've sewn on my pocket material, and while I did do 3 pockets for both sides of the bag, I did make the center pocket on one side a little bit bigger. So let me show you. So this one is more like narrow for like pins and stuff, and then this one I made a little bit wider, and I figured I could put maybe like my Tylenol or my Advil bottles or something in that one. So I made it a little bit bigger, and so I sewed the bottom down on both sides, and then I did sew my 2 up and down seams here on both sides. So now we can go ahead and sew our lining together. So to do that, you want to face both of your lining pieces pretty sides touching, and we're going to line up both sides. You want to make sure that the pocket fabric on the bottom and the top is lined up on both sides. And then once you have that, you can pin it in place or clip it. And then we're going to sew down one side along the bottom, and then up the other side. You want to do a 1/2 inch all the way down, over, and up. And you want to make sure that you backstitch at the beginning and ending of your seams. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so I did my seam down the side, the bottom, and up the other side. So now for the pattern, the next steps are to add the magnetic closure up at the top. But since I'm not doing that, I'm going to skip those steps and move on to the next step, which is actually boxing out the corners of our lining. So to box out the corners of your lining, you want to go to the corner and then you want to open it up, open up the corner. You're essentially opening up the bag. So you want to open it up, and you want to open up the seams that we just did. I'm going to open that up, and what you want to do is you want to press your seams together so that the insides of the seams, the pretty sides of the fabric, are touching. And you can kind of feel around with your fingernail or your fingers to make sure that it's lined up. And once you get that pressed open, then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and pin this open. So I'm going to put a pin in there. So now I need to measure how far in I want my boxed corner to be. So let's say, for example, 3 inches, then you would measure in 3 inches from the tip right here. You measure 3 inches, draw a line straight across, and you want to do that for both sides of your bag. So I'm going to go ahead and get my measurement out, and then we'll go ahead and mark both sides of our bag. All right, so I've marked both of my boxed corners here. So now we're going to stitch across that marked line, making sure to backstitch at the beginning and the end of our stitching line. All right, so I boxed my corners, and again, this is my first time making a bag. My first corner went great. It matched up perfectly, the seams on the inside of the bag. My second corner, not so much. I sewed it, and then when I looked inside the bag, the seam on the side of the bag and the bottom of the bag were like a ½ inch off from each other, so it was very crooked. So I did unpick that seam and I redid it, so now everything lines up nicely on the inside. And then you also need to do the outside of your bag, do the same thing. So again, I marked the same amount of distance that I did on my lining, and then I drew my lines. You can see it right there, and then I sewed across it, making sure to backstitch at the beginning and the ending of the line. So here is the outside of our bag. Hopefully you can see that, yeah. Here's the outside of our bag, and then the inside of our bag. So now in the directions it says that you can cut off the excess fabric here. It says to make sure to leave about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of fabric, or the creator of the pattern says that she leaves the extra fabric to help give structure to the bottom of the bag. So I think I might go ahead and do that, since I'm thinking of using this as my purse. I want it to have, you know, a good amount of structure, so I think I will leave the extra fabric on the bottoms. So yeah, so for this step, we are done with the boxing of the corners. Okay, so the next step after our corners are done being boxed is we need to open up the side seams on the lining and the outside of the bag. We need to open those up and then press them open. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, press open all of my seams. And then once that's done, for the top of your lining here, you need to fold the fabric over 3/4 inch and then press that down as well. So once you're done pressing the top of the lining down 3/4 inch, you'll want to do the same thing for the top of the bag. Fold it down 3/4 inch and press. All right, so I've pressed my side seams open and I pressed down the folded edge on the lining and the exterior of the bag. So now we need to turn the exterior of our bag right sides out. So go ahead and flip this around. There we go. I'm just going to make sure that my little corners here are all nice and poked out. There. All right. So now we need to put the lining inside our bag. So now this is where, because I'm not cutting off the these little corner pieces here, I need to make sure that when I put my lining inside, my little corner pieces are facing the right direction. So for my outside of the bag, I'm going to have my corner pieces on the bottom, so they need to be folded down. And then for the lining, I need to make sure that my corner pieces are folded up like this. So now we go ahead and put our lining inside. And I'm super excited because there's only one more seam to sew and then the bag will be done. So I need to turn this a little bit to get my side seams to match up. And I'm pretty much just putting my finger in the corner of the lining and then looking for the corner of my outside piece of the bag and then just shoving my finger into both corners so that they line up nicely. Hopefully, you probably can't really see what I'm doing in the camera. So now I'm just feeling along the bottom to make sure that my Yeah, okay, to make sure that my little, I don't know, pointy part is facing in the right direction. All right, so there's that. So now I'm going to line up my side seams, and this is where you'll want to pin to keep everything looking nice. So I'm going to pin my 2 side seams, and that looks good over here. Oop. Going to pin, well, clip that. Now I'm just pulling the outside edges so that the fabric in the middle gets pulled nice and tight. And then I'm just going to line this up and clip again in the middle. All right, so the last seam is just doing a trip around the top of the bag, top stitching along the outside, and then the bag will be done. So yeah, so let's go ahead and sew that last seam. All right, so I just finished my top stitching seam and my bag is done. So look at how cute this bag is. So let me try and show it to you here. So I originally had planned on having this white fabric with the blue flowers. I had planned on having that on the bottom here, but the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna be using this kind of like, you know, daily, I don't think it's a good idea to have a white fabric on the bottom of the bag. So I did go ahead and switch that with the green fabric, which I had planned on having it as my straps. So I put the green fabric on the bottom. This way, if it got a little dirty, it wouldn't be as noticeable as if I had the white fabric on the bottom. So that is the only change that I made as far as my initial planning process when I selected the fabrics that I wanted to use. So I did switch that out, but this came out super cute. I am loving how it looks, and the inside is very, very spacious. And then having the different pockets here essentially all around the bag, I think is going to be super handy for holding all of my stuff, because I do have a lot of stuff in my purse. So yeah, so this is the bag, and let me check to see what it measures. So, and I'm just gonna do it standing up, so let's see. Width-wise, if I squeeze it down, it's about 13.5 inches. Height is about 10.5, and the side fatness over here is about 6.5 inches. So it's pretty close to the measurements of the pattern. The pattern said the bag would measure approximately 12 inches tall by 15 inches wide by 4.5 inches deep. So we're not terribly off from those measurements. But I like the size that it came out. It's not, honestly, when I originally read it, I was like 12 by 15, that might be too big. But seeing it now completed, I think this is the perfect size. This is a good size. Again, it's big enough where I can fit my tablet in here, but it's also small enough where it's not like I'm carrying around like a duffel bag. So my bag is done, and I think it came out so stinking cute. When I saw the Sunny Skies fabric collection, I figured I had to do the bag out of it, again, because I'm in Florida. So the sunflowers are just super happy and bright, and I thought it would be super duper cute. And I was right, this bag came out so stinking cute. And I think using this darker blue print here as my like focal print, I think it was the right call. I think having it anywhere else, I think if I had done it with the straps, the print would have gotten lost because it's pretty small. And it really brings the eye to like the sunny yellow pocket. So yeah, I think it came out really cute. So again, this particular collection has several prints in it. The prints that I selected for this bag was just a handful of the possible prints that you can get. I always recommend to people, if you're interested in a collection, get the Fat Quarter bundle, because you get a little bit of every print in the entire collection. So I highly recommend you get the Fat Quarter bundle if you're interested in working with this particular collection, the Sunny Skies collection. If you wanted to make this bag, it is For the most part, fat quarter friendly. The only thing you would have to piece together would be the fabric for the straps. The straps are, I believe, 40 inches long is what it was, so you would have to piece fabric to get the straps, but otherwise all of the rest of the components of the bag are fat quarter friendly, so it would totally work. If you're interested in the fat quarter bundle of the Sunny Skies fabric collection, I do have a link to it in the description down below. You can check it out over at the Fat Quarter Shop. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I do have a link to the pattern down below as well. It is to a shop on Etsy. So that is it for today's video. So we got the bag knocked out. I will be doing the shorts still, but I'll save that for a future video. If you have any questions or comments about the fabric collection or the bag or any of the stabilizer interfacing, anything like that I use, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. If you liked today's video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber to my YouTube channel yet, please make sure you do so by hitting the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys later.